Earlier this month, we had some of the hottest days we've had of this summer by far. And I mean by far because we are only 1/3 into our summer and it can still get hotter. I'm pretty sure the actual temperature was around 48 degrees, maybe even close to 50, but I didn't want to stick around to find out. It was windy, dry, hot. It was unbearable. We have been given some reprieve in the form of cool changes and some thunderstorms. Parts of the south and southeast coast of Australia was treated to a few days of showers, which I hope will continue long enough to help contain the bushfires that are currently raging around Australia. My family is safe mainly because of our proximity from the bushfires. If you draw a straight line from our suburb to where the bushfires are, east of my state of Victoria, you will get a distance of over 260 kilometers. I'm hoping to keep my channel non-political, but all I can say is that regardless of whether or not our ministers believe in climate change, they should have at least ensured our fireys had adequate resources to handle fires, because bushfires happen every year, year on year, every summer, but not on a scale as large as this. The international community has been great. There had been an outpouring of support financially and even in terms of manpower. We've had firefighters from around the world arriving at Sydney over the past several days, reinforcing our brave but tired firefighters on the front lines. It's a race against the clock, but let's all hope that the fires get contained and do not get spread further before the next batch of heat waves arrive. I know it's been a while since my last video. I have mostly been sticking to my daily Echeverria posts on Instagram and the occasional photo posts on Facebook, so I feel that I owe you a quick update. First off, as I mentioned in the intro, my family is safe. Thankfully, we only have to contend with the smoke and smog here in the city. Melbourne is a pretty windy city, which means that the smoke thinns down rather quickly. It has been so hot that I didn't want to spend a lot of time filming outdoors, but I would do a bit of gardening here and there when it gets cooler late in the afternoon or early evening. A lot has happened behind the scenes and they're mostly just me doing some maintenance, so let's have a look. I chopped off some of my mature Echeverria because they were getting really leggy and top heavy. Since it is their growing season, some of the heads started growing roots in as quickly as 5 or 6 days. The stumps started pushing out new pops along the stem not too long after the roots on the heads. The first to produce roots and pops was the Echeverria pompous, which at the moment was the greenest among the bunch. The rest of them re-established not too long after the pompous. I figured I shouldn't waste all of this vigor and I set out to transfer them into pots. Up until now, they have just been sitting in the shade with no contact with soil at all. As you can see here, I've been checking on each plant and pot one by one, but as of recording, only a few plants have produced roots, and so far I think it was the pompous, bittersweet, and the barbellion. The rest of the plants took at least another week before they started growing roots, and the rest of the stumps produced more pops not too long after that. I also went to check out the results of my flower stalk propagations. As you recall, I recently made an experiment using thin flower stalks. And as you can see, they have all dried out, which is pretty much what I've expected, especially considering we're in the middle of summer right now. So here's proof that thin flower stalks are not worth keeping as far as propagation is concerned. The same cannot be said of the thicker flower stalks. All of them are producing pops like mad. The growth of the pops has been so amazing, this tells me that I have chosen the right spot for my propagation station. I replanted all of the rooted heads because if I don't, their roots will dry out and die. I had to make sure that I added enough soil in the pot to reach the roots. These are head chops and I tend to leave a very short neck on the head, which means that the soil level in the pot is pretty much high up. If left too low, the roots will need even more time to grow, time that I can't afford to give them in this weather. I want them to get established and I want it fast. Looking back, my freestanding pergola could not have come at a better time. It was pretty much the reason why my plants along the fence are doing great at the moment. We have had heat waves after heat waves coming in the last 3 or so weeks. I think I made a very good investment. As you can see here, I am watering my plants. I've been making sure that they are dry before I water because summer is when most harmful soil-borne fungi are active. You would not want to keep them constantly wet because fungi thrive in moist and warm environments. I do not have a clip of it, but I've been spending a few hours every week removing dead leaves. This is to ensure that they receive adequate airflow, which in turn helps with the moisture problem. I've been closely monitoring the growth rate of the plants along the fence and comparing them with those not under the shade. There's a significant difference in growth rate between the two groups, and this gives you a good idea of how much different the microclimates with versus without filtering the light. Like I do every year, this shade structure is temporary, but I'm thinking of doing a different kind of experiment this year. When summer ends, I'm going to remove the shade like usual, but keep the one that's attached directly above the pergola. The idea is that I will have the light filtered throughout the year on this small section, and I'll compare the growth of the plants with the rest of the yard. Speaking of growth, my Echeveria seedlings are going strong. Some of them are growing quicker than the others, which I find very fascinating. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take some clips of them, so I'll feature them prominently in the next episode. Another update I feel I should talk about is the craft market at work last month. It was a fun experience and something I would consider a success despite still having a lot of plants left over. I made about $200 worth of sales, which is pretty good for a first-timer. I know a lot of you are waiting on my update to the online plant shop, and I've been very poor at keeping you up to date with it. My main excuse for taking this long just to update the list is pretty much the heat waves. I didn't like sitting around just looking at and counting the plants in my trays, and thankfully the temperature this weekend will be rather cool, at least according to the forecast, so I might be able to take some time to work on my list. I'm hoping this time I'm able to relaunch the shop for 2020, so please stay tuned. I will put up a community post when that is ready. You could subscribe so you would get notified about it. I apologize for the change in style for this episode. I have mostly just used voiceovers on top of pre-recorded clips. I didn't really have much clips prepared for this episode, much less ones where I am speaking on camera. In the next episode, I'm going to walk you through my future plans for my garden's landscape. I left you with a cliffhanger for Agavoideville and the Philippines. I also need to rework the Patreon shrine after building the pergola. Then there's also the matter of Project Lux. There's a whole lot of projects. I'm just waiting for the temperatures to settle down before I start filming. So my next episode might take a while before it publishes. But regardless of publishing schedule, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.